out their knees or twist their ankles or what have you when they landed. And I just think that's a punk move by a guy who just really didn't have that much ability. If he had real ability, beyond just hustling to be in the spot so that when people land, they potentially injure themselves, how about just play hard? How about play defense? How about just play defense, play some offense, work on your skill set, do the best you can, Bruce. But don't go out and intentionally try to hurt people. And then for you to have a secondary career where you run around in a bow tie and talk about the fact you used to intentionally hurt people on a sports channel, I just think it's horrible. I just think it's horrible. I think you ought to either be removed from the air, or they ought to at least make you come clean and say, you know what I used to do to guys is wrong, and I hope the next generation of folks doesn't follow my lead, because this is really wrong. Because it's following a jackass like Bruce Bowen that makes this kid last night from Houston think it's okay to try to place himself under Steph Curry's ankles when he lands, under his feet and ankles when he lands. And it is fundamentally wrong. It's wrong. And that kid from Houston, he lacks Steph's ability. Everybody lacks Steph's ability. So the only answer we've come up with is, let's give Steph some cheap shots. Since we can't legitimately D him up, or nobody's that hungry. And I mean, I think Steph would be, this is where I'm at with Steph. I think Steph would be tough for anybody, anywhere to D up in any generation. All the old dudes, Oscar Robertson and that whole crew, I mean, that's completely ridiculous. Y'all weren't even this breed of athlete, so you could not have handled him. So I don't even want to hear from the guys who played in Oscar Robertson's era, etc. Totally different athletes, totally skilled at a whole different level, faster, quicker, jump higher, taller, and just on everything. Taller, bigger, faster, smarter, leaner, meaner, everything. You were fantastic in your day, Oscar Robertson. Is not to take something away from you in your era and your time, but today's athlete it's like racing a Model T versus a Ferrari, bro. It's a totally different engine, different horsepower, different equipment, different technology. You literally cannot even compare the two. So that's absurd. So let's move forward to at least the Jordan, Scottie Pippen era. I can entertain folks who want to say that Jordan, Scottie, and that crew in Chicago may have had a chance with Golden State. I'm willing to have that discussion. I think that's a real discussion to be had. I think it still would have been tough because Steph is so damn quick. He is so quick, so efficient, and his release is so quick that although Scottie and Mike, Harper, and all those guys, although they played D, somebody pointed this out the other day. I was with Golden State reaching their 73rd win. Somebody was pointing out the other day that whenever you saw pictures of Chicago, and when they were D'ing up, and they were playing D, these are first team defensive players, Jordan and Pippen. And Rodman was right there, either first or second team with rebounds and the whole nine. So they were right there. They were legit defenders. But whenever you saw them playing, they were low, they were lean, they were mean, they were lengthy dudes. So Jordan 6'6", Scotty's 6'8", and they were long, efficient, fantastic, thoroughbred athletes. Not arguing any of that. But they were going to put that hand on you. They were going to reach out their hand and put that hand on you. They were going to check your hip. They were going to check you in the chest. They were going to poke you right in your navel, right above your groin. They didn't really care. They were going to swipe at the ball. They were going to do a whole myriad of things which you really can't do in today's NBA. So therefore, it's tougher to do kind of the head-to-head comparison because you can't quite check Steph the way that they used to check him. Now, that's number one. Now, number two, though, I don't take anything away from Steph because there was nobody in their era. They were checking dudes. Maybe they were going out and checking somebody close to the three-point line. That might have been, quote unquote, the big shooter. You got to check Steph. You got to get low into your stance, like, Gene Smith, Bobby Hurley. If you're going to start banging banging your hands on the floor and all that, you got to do that at half court. You got to start to get in your crouch on the other side of half court. You got to start to get low because Steph can pull up from anywhere. That's what's crazy about his game. He's pulling up from anywhere. And unlike other jump shooters of their era, who at least would kind of stop, collect themselves, because that's how jump shooters are taught. Believe it or not, as a big dude, I used to, not so much that I used to be a jump shooter, but I played enough basketball to at least understand the fundamentals. And I played basketball at a time with a lot of talented dudes before I just became too wide, and then I just focused on playing football. In today's era, I guess I would have only played football because kids just focus, primarily on like one sport now, and everybody does AAU stuff. But how jump shooters are taught is to engage, pick up their dribble, but when you pick up your dribble, you're supposed to collect yourself with 2 feet, square up your shoulders to the basket, then raise your hands up above yourself, then extend and lock out your wrist and all that. Well, all of those things are steps. Those are like step, 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 step. So as the defender who's playing these guys, you are anticipating what they're going to do. Even when X player stops, he's going to stop, then have to collect himself, get his 2 feet underneath them, square his shoulders to the basket, then pull. So all of that goes into your, defense when you're calculating how aggressively you need to play him or even your reaction time. The problem with Steph is that you don't have all that time. Steph is unconventional in that he is not collecting his 2 feet all the time. He's shooting off of 1 foot, 2 feet, a half a foot. He's shooting with his legs spread. He's shooting in like a running stance. He's shooting from his waist. He's just launching the ball sometimes from his ankles. You can't defend that. You cannot account for that. You have no time to react to that. So even Jordan and Pippen, as fantastic as they were as defenders, I think they would have a hell of a tough time with Steph because he is so efficient with the ball. His handle is fantastic. And by the way, it's not handles. I don't understand where handles came from. People are arbitrarily, trying to get cute and sexy with some of the quote unquote street lingo. It was called a handle, just like a handle on a vacuum, a handle on a purse, a handle. It's not handles. You didn't have 5 different handles. There's one handle. That's how he moves the ball around. It's one handle. It's not multiple. So I don't understand how people went there with it, but they've turned handle versus handles into an RBI, into an RBI versus RBIs discussion, which, that's a whole nother thing. But I did hear that debate today. I happen to be an RBIs guy, but I can appreciate how RBI is the correct diction if you're going to say, okay, it's runs batted in. I thought it was interesting. When that discussion came about today, somebody made the analogy with POWs. Are they POWs? Are they runs batted in? So is it RBIs? Because if it's RBIs, then if it's POWs, prisoner of war, or prisoners of war, then it's like runs batted in or run batted in. So if it's POWs, and clearly nobody says POW, if there's 20 POWs, plural, 20 people, 20 men, or 20 people came home from war who are prisoners of war, we don't call them POW singular. So therefore, I think sometimes our vernacular, and not to turn this into an English discussion, but I think sometimes our sporting vernacular supersedes and overrides correct English, and we've got to let it go at that because that becomes the nomenclature, and that's what we do. And when we try to make it perfect, it doesn't always fit. So I think we got to keep it at RBIs, and I think we got to keep it at handle. And we definitely don't want to mess with POWs. We don't want to mess with POWs at all. We want to leave that alone. And anyway, so that's my Steph piece. That is my Steph piece. Now, if we can, Mr. Nick, I'd like to get 6 minutes from you. Here we go. Come on. Here we go. Come on. Whoa. Here we go. Here we go. Here we go. He did it. We did it. You're on. So for 6 minutes here, I want to discuss a weighty subject. There's an expression down in Houston that they use around NASA. It's called, Houston, we have a problem. It's the old NASA cats. And it became, part of our vernacular. But we've got Houston, we've got a problem. Well, I would say in Boston, Beantown, we have a problem. We have a problem. And it's a weighty subject. There are two athletes in Boston who I'm going to make light of it, and I'm going to explain why a little bit. I mean, it's a serious matter in some ways, but I'm going to make light of it a little bit, and I will say that why I feel I have the ability to make light of it is that I have struggled with my own weight. For those who don't know, I am actually post-gastric bypass. So I used to be a really, really large man. I'm still a pretty big kid by most people's standards. I'm still 6'2", 300 pounds plus. So I'm still a big kid. But I used to be